Have you ever thought to yourself something along the lines of, I live a good life, why do I feel so unfulfilled inside? And maybe that thought led to another thought like, I live such a great life that other people would be happy to have. I should be happy to be living this life. I shouldn't feel this way. And then you may find yourself thinking, where do I go from here? What's the next step forward? What do I do to stop feeling this way? And so that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video today, and we're going to answer those questions, and hopefully you'll gain some new perspectives on where you're at now and what to do to move forward. So why do so many of us feel that we're living a good life and yet we feel unfulfilled and empty inside? And I have two possible reasons why you may be feeling this way, but first, to set the stage, I was once that person. This is how I started to feel back in 2016. At this point, I had been working for about 4 years in my job. I was a junior engineer. I had a good job with good pay at a good company. I had a car and I had just bought a condo downtown. And I was checking all the boxes off of the, good life checklist. On top of that, I had friends and we hung out often and I was doing things outside of work that I enjoyed. I had hobbies and activities. I played on rec teams. I did things like that. And I also felt pretty good about my life at this point. I was working my way up a career path that was a, well-respected career in the engineering field. All of these things were great. But it was around 2016 that I started to feel a little unsettled at work. I had this sense of being bored and I had started to kind of think about what came next. And I knew something was feeling a little off at this time, but I wasn't quite sure what it was. I hadn't exactly put my finger on feeling unfulfilled. I thought maybe I was just doing work that I found boring. And at the time I thought, I just need to go back and get a master's degree so that I can, be qualified to do more interesting work in my field. So let's jump into the first reason why you may be living a good life, but feeling unfulfilled and empty despite all of the accomplishments and all the good things that you have in your life. And so this comes down to having our basic needs met. And I really like to look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is an idea that our needs have a hierarchy and we need to fulfill more basic survival needs before we can think about things like friendship and esteem and self-actualization. And so the hierarchy starts at the bottom with basic physiological needs. So this is like food, water, shelter. We need those things to survive. And so that's always going to be our first priority. And we can't really think beyond these things if they aren't being met. And so one step above that is safety. And this comes down to security and safety and things like employment. Once that's taken care of, we can start thinking about things like love and belonging and friendships and relationships and connection and things like that. And from there, we may start thinking about esteem. This is our sense of accomplishment and respect in life and our status. And once these needs are met, we can start thinking about self-actualization. And so this is things like achieving our full potential. And at this point, you may start considering your purpose in life and what you're really meant to do here. A lot of us who are feeling this way have a decent job, we make decent money, our career feels stable, all of our basic needs are met, we have no problem putting food on the table and we have a roof over our heads. A lot of us have pretty good friendships and we have those relationships established in our lives, and we have a sense of esteem, likely through our accomplishments and career and kind of checking those boxes. And so if you remember from what I said earlier, back in 2016, I had all of these things covered. I was making around $70,000 a year. I was in a career path that I thought would be stable and secure, and I had friendships and I was doing things outside of work and I felt good about my status and, what I was doing in life. So I had kind of all of those basic levels of the pyramid covered. And so the first 4 needs in Maslow's hierarchy are considered deficiency needs. And once these things are met, we start to think about growth. And that's where self-actualization comes in. And this is where we can start to think about our purpose and finding fulfillment beyond just basic survival needs. And so I think this is why so many of us that have a good life, suddenly find ourselves questioning things and feeling unfulfilled and searching for purpose and meaning in life because we're at that stage where everything is taken care of. And now our mind turns more towards growth and self-actualization and kind of being our best selves that we can on the planet. And so the second reason why you may be feeling unfulfilled is a little bit more spiritual. It comes from more of the esoteric sense of things. And that's just that you are not living your purpose. You are not doing the work that you're meant to be doing here on this planet. And this feeling of, something's not right, I'm unfulfilled, I kind of want to search for purpose can all be the signs of you being nudged to step into that higher purpose. And I really started to feel this way during my last job before I finally left engineering behind for good. So let's continue the story. Between 2016 and about 2018, I continued working as an engineer. And by 2018, that kind of general sense of something being off had turned into something else. And by that point, I was well aware that the work that I was doing was not the work that I was meant to be doing. And I didn't have some big epiphany. It was just this feeling. It was this sense, this intuition, that could be a gut feeling that you're having. And it was just this knowing that I had that I was meant to be doing something else and that the work I was doing was not the work that I was put on this planet to do. And there's no real logic behind it. It's just this knowing and this feeling that I'm meant to be doing something else. And so I really want to take a minute to address the fact that some of you may be feeling bad about feeling unfulfilled. You may think that you should be grateful for the life that you have and, it's a good life and why can't I just be happy with it? And there's sort of this morality around, feeling bad for wanting something different or wanting something more. It's really important to understand that it's totally okay to want something different or even want more out of your life. There's nothing wrong with realizing that what you have right now is not working for you. And you can say, I want something different, even though it looks great on paper. For me, I remember that I really wanted more freedom. I had this sense of feeling so constricted in my life, and I really wanted something more and something different, and that was something that would lead to more freedom for me. And especially if you have grown up in North America, all of us know this kind of idealized life that is go to school, get a good job, work your way up the corporate ladder, buy a house, get married, have kids. This is all seen as the, successful, good life. And a lot of us have just accepted that. We haven't really considered if that's our version of a good life or if that's someone else's version or society's version or our parents told us that's what we should want or our teachers or whoever. And when you're growing up, it's just easy to take this on as your own beliefs because you want your life to turn out okay. You want to do things right and you want to be successful. And so you just listen to whoever is around you or the narrative at the time. And you think, if I do that, then I'll be successful. And so one of the reasons why you may be feeling unfulfilled is because you've been living someone else's great life. Maybe this isn't the best life for you and you've just taken it on as your life and now you think you should be grateful for it. One way to think about this is like someone gives you a pair of shoes and they're like really high quality. This person loves them, but these shoes are not even your style and they're not even your size. But you think, oh, these are so great. This person is so excited about them. I should try and make these shoes work. And so you try and wear them and you just feel uncomfortable because they're not really your style. So you feel a little off in them and they don't fit. So they're really uncomfortable, or maybe they've even started to hurt your feet. And you just think, I need to keep trying to make these work. And you keep putting more band-aids on your feet, but you're getting blisters. And there comes a point where you just need to realize these are not the shoes for me. And I need to be okay to take these shoes off, let someone else have them, and find the pair of shoes that fit me. So at this point, you've realized that you're unfulfilled, something's not feeling right. You may have realized that your life or your career is like a pair of shoes that aren't really your style or your size. And you've realized that those shoes aren't going to work and you need to take them off and find the shoes that do work for you. And so you're kind of at this point where you're like, what do I do? How do I go forward from here? And my first piece of advice is kind of a tough pill to swallow, but it comes in the form of a quote by Alice Hoffman that is, "Once you know some things, you can't unknow them. It's a burden that can never be given away." And so I really like to think of this as you have realized that you're unfulfilled. You have realized that something isn't working. And this is like you just woke up from the Matrix and you can't really unknow what you know now, that is your life is unfulfilling. Like you have a great life, but something isn't right. And this is something that you can't unknow. You've had this awakening and you can't go back to sleep, and no amount of buffering or band-aids is really going to fix the problem. At this point, you can't ignore the pebble in your shoe. And this comes from a quote by Muhammad Ali that is, "It isn't the mountains ahead to climb that wear you out. It's the pebble in your shoe." And the pebble in your shoe is this nagging feeling that something is off and that you feel unfulfilled consistently in your life. It's this knowing that something is wrong. Your work doesn't light you up anymore. Maybe this career path isn't for you anymore, and you aren't excited by what you're doing. And you just have this feeling that there's something else that you're meant to be doing. And when you don't stop to address the pebble in your shoe, it doesn't go away. It just gets louder. At some point, if you keep pushing forward, it's going to rub a blister into your foot, and it's no longer going to be a minor inconvenience, but it's going to be something that hurts with every step, and it's going to keep getting worse the longer that you ignore it. And this is what happened to me. So back in 2016, that feeling that I was having, I didn't realize it at the time, but that was the pebble in my shoe. And I continued to walk down the path of my engineering career with that pebble in my shoe all the way until 2018, when it was no longer a minor annoyance, but it was something that was really screaming for me to pay attention to it. By this time, I was stressed a lot. I had gained a bunch of weight. I was dreading going to work all the time. Like the pain of going to work, the pain of that pebble was just so loud, and it took everything in me to get through those 8-hour days. And I would just come home and feel so drained. I would have no energy left in the tank, and I would just lay in bed with the lights off for like half an hour before I could even think about, making dinner or going about my evening activities. So your job right now is to not ignore that pebble in your shoe. And if you've just noticed that there's a pebble there, then now is a great time to take action. And if you're someone who, like me, kind of knew there was a pebble but ignored it and kept going, and now you're in a lot of pain, well, the same advice goes for you as well. Now is definitely the time not to continue to ignore it. It's telling you that something needs to change. You're feeling unfulfilled because you're being called to serve a higher purpose in this life. And that's a big undertaking. The mountain that you're climbing now is figuring out what comes next. So do you want to continue to stay where you're at now and struggle against that pebble in your shoe? Or do you want to struggle to find meaning and purpose and fulfillment in life? The first step is to allow yourself to consider what could be next and what could be different. And if you're someone who has just started thinking about this and you really have no clue what could be next, then it's time to get curious. It's time to find something that sparks something inside of you that is a direction that you want to take in your life. And it's very unlikely that you don't have any ideas. I think a lot of us have these kind of ideas in the back of our mind that we dismiss because we don't want to change, or we don't think that they're even possible, or they're not realistic, or whatever. And so we kind of just ignore them. And so if that's you, then it's time to start getting into action on that list and stop living in what if and start seeing how they could go. And maybe that's your step forward, and that's how you get that pebble out of your shoe. So I hope that this video has been helpful and it's given you some perspective and maybe some permission to start thinking about how you could change your life to better suit you. And if you did enjoy the video, then make sure to give it a big thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel if you like this type of content. And with that, I will see you next week.